I want to be a little time sensitive because we are going to have a special guest interview. I mean, that sounds so formal. But ElectroDolly, who has been in chat, was willing to have an interview as a new person, newer to D&D, and talk about what the experience is. Because for a lot of us, if you've been playing for a while, it just seems second nature, or, you know, the butterflies in the stomach just aren't there because of experience. Well, you know what? For a lot of people, they may have those butterflies for different reasons. And so being able to talk to someone who's new to the hobby can also help check us as old-timers to make sure that, are we open to running for new people? What are concerns that are brought up by people who haven't played D&D? Is something intimidating, or is there something just so optimistic and they're looking forward to that you could try and fulfill that and make that experience, especially, you know, that initial experience with D&D, or, you know, or at least in a serious campaign, be all the more worthwhile, and then you have a new friend for life with which you can play this game. So, yes, Dolly, we are going to, I'm going to open up a contact with you here. And Dolly, as we do talk, you know, as chat says stuff, you can respond to questions if people have questions. Or I might read something, or if someone does it, like a subscription or whatever, and I'll make sure to give an appropriate thank you. But let's start the call. Yes, I can hear you. Hang on. Okay, let me turn the volume up just a little bit here. Okay, try talking, and audience, can you hear ElectroDolly?
Hi chat, it's ElectroDolly. Hopefully that works.
Hopefully. There's a 10-second delay between when we speak and when they can hear. Okay, Sprocketeer says yes. King says a bit too low, and Broplier says hi.
Oh, hi. Oh my goodness. Mike, I hope you fix yourself here. Okay, hopefully that's better.
Okay, I also increased your output volume, and so that should be able to help as well.
But yeah, hi guys. I'm a total noob and it's super intimidating, but I want to play, so yeah.
Well, just saying that, I know this may sound odd, but as a game store owner, I see this happen all the time where people want to play these games, but even though an environment or a game or a franchise or a location seems to be exactly what you want, it can be a little intimidating. And if I recall correctly, you said something like the books might have seemed intimidating to you in the last segment.
There is a lot of information to take in. It's a little overwhelming. Obviously, I know the DM is kind of there to guide, or at least that's how I perceive them. But there's just so much. Like, before the stream, mind you, you make creating a character look so easy. I just thought it was going to be, like, super, super daunting. But, like, after seeing you do it, I'm like, okay, I can do this.
It really, once you get the location of the items you're looking for, it's easier, because if you trust in yourself to realize what you want to play as a concept, it's then finding ways to manifest it. But it's your character, right? It's your concept.
True.
And if you know that you want to play Velma Dilly Dilly, or a character like that, then
She's so cool.
I really enjoyed it. And you know, a lot on Twitch we hear that RNG is bad, but I think we saw a rare instance where random number generation is a lot of fun.
Out. I wonder how she's gonna change like tomorrow or however often you stream. My bad.
Yeah, we'll find. Sorry, I have a cat who's being a cat. All right, hi, ma'am. Yeah, and we'll find out tomorrow as well, because I don't know. We're gonna do some random shifting, and we'll find out. We have a core concept for Velma Dilly Dilly, and we'll find out what happens if we end up making her a male pirate, but everything else is still the same. Yet, oh, cat, what? Stop, please. Yeah, at least she's not wanting to play fetch, because then I have to lock her out of the room because she's on top of it.
My cats play fetch.
They play fetch too. But you know, she's friendly enough, and she says hi to people, and also gives them the old pink eye. So,
Thanks for following.
oh yes. Thank you, Sprocketeer, for following and coming along on this. So Dolly, let's go back to the beginning.
Right.
When did you first think about wanting to play in it? I mean, we'll say D&D, but if you want to keep it to tabletop gaming or even role playing broader, because there's a lot of different systems. But what ignited the spark? Going from average normie to to some degenerate tabletop connoisseur of board games and role playing games and all of this, devil summoning that we do as gamers. What?
Wow, is it really that bad? Like
No. I mean, it used to. There used to be like, oh, D&D is cults and devil summoning, but I'm sure there's people who still think that, but it's not as pervasive. But yeah, so let's start at the beginning. What ignited this spark, this interest?
Okay, so just to give you like some background, back in middle school, my best friend Ava, she owned, I don't know like what volume it was, maybe like, how many volumes are there? It was pretty early. Then 4, she owned it. And I don't think it was Pathfinder. So, yeah. But anyways, she owned a book, and I was just looking through it, and I was like, oh man, this is so cool. I want to be a rogue, because of course she was being a rogue. And
okay.
I was just figuring it out, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Oh man, I want to be anyone in this game, which is kind of why I like it.
So is the sense of freedom that this is your character, it's not a novel or it's not a comic book character that someone else has written, but she's yours or he's yours?
Yeah, exactly. But like, fast forward like now, like when I go to the game store, like I see people playing and they're just having so much fun. Like now I think it's more about like, oh, I want to make more friends. Oh, I want to sit down, have fun, unwind. Like it's more about that aspect now.
Oh yes. Dolly, I'll tell you that as much as you saw going through character creation is D&D, another part of D&D that isn't necessarily in a book is sitting down with your friends before you play and eating pizza. Whoop, cat. It's eating pizza together. It's talking about, oh, you wouldn't believe the week I had, or kind of geeking out over something else, or heck, you know what? Sometimes you just have an awful day, you feel miserable, but you still get yourself up, you go to your friend's house, and you say, look, I'm not necessarily in the best mood, but I still wanted to come and be around you. And that's a part of D&D as well, the social aspect, the communication. It's not all just rolling dice. And
But that's another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, please continue. Like, you do have that community, and I really want that, but like, right there. Like, I'm pretty shy, so like, meeting new people, it's just like, I feel like I'm imposing, like, oh, they're not gonna let some like random newbie in their game, so it's like,
That is something that can occur. And I'll tell you, Dolly, as someone who does own a game store, that would be one of the instances where I would not, if a private game came to the store and someone, and they didn't want to invite someone new in, it's a closed group, they have their thing going, it might have been going for a year. I'd still ask them to, see if you can sit down and play, but it can be intimidating, or it can be there can be a barrier to entry because you don't know the people, or you might think, well, what if people make fun of my voice, or what if people say that my character is dumb or not powerful enough? Those are real concerns to get up the gumption and do that. Though I think you'll find that this is a good step in that direction, that when you do find a group, they will be accepting, and especially if you're quirky, especially if you wear cosplay, or I mean, if you've watched, I don't know if you've seen our Tuesday streams, but our players dyed their hair, or they wear makeup or wigs. The people,
cool.
they get into it, and it only takes a couple things. And you may say, well, but everyone's gonna stare. I'm wearing a wig. Like, oh, the heavens are falling. This is the end times, apparently. But going that extra step, even if it seems weird, you might end up inspiring a lot of people, even old grizzled, long beards and gray beards. You might give them, that group, your energy, your fresh eyes. In fact, that's the entire reason why an interview like what we're having is so powerful, because there's a lot of new people there who have similar concerns. That they're, well, am I going to be judged, or will people accept me?
And another thing, like, at least at my game store, there's like 9 times out of 10, I'm like the only chick there, and that's like so intimidating to just go up to a group of guys and be like, so, can you tell me more about it? Like, I would like to know.
Do you get at your local game store the feeling of I'm a girl in a game store, where there's interest that is going beyond we're friends and playing a game? Is this a thing that you're feeling in today's game store culture?
I don't know if it's just because, like, my game store is more about, like, Magic the Gathering, but yeah, I definitely get that way. Like, there's lots of kids, but just, like, I'm not gonna go up to, like, a kid group playing D&D and be like, hey, can I watch you play? So, yeah. Like you said, lots of barriers to entry, I feel.
Yeah, there can be, and, without getting into the, everyone gets a trophy sort of, or like a forced inclusion, because that does no one any good, right? It has to be natural, but in your own way, you can bring a fresh perspective, especially if your meta is more male oriented. If you can insert yourself into these situations, to play Magic or to get D&D started or something, I think that you'll have a lot to bring to the table. And I will say, as someone who is in that position, if someone is making you feel uncomfortable, I mean, that should never happen. I talk to the management too. But if I can give you some advice, actually, Dolly, I would start your own D&D group. Even though you may be fresh to D&D and it may make you nervous, that puts you in the seat of power in the group, because you'll control the content and the conversation. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I just hope people join. My goodness.
There is an eternal shortage of dungeon masters. There are a lot of people who are willing to play. So what we'll do is we'll give you a montage, and over the course of, 2 minutes, through this montage, you'll be a professional dungeon master. If only it worked that way, right? No, you're gonna have to make mistakes and miscall rules and be embarrassed and flub a combat or accidentally kill everyone. And look, this stuff happens.
That would be me. Also, Sprocketeer, sorry if I said it wrong, but they made a really good point. Like, bring some of my friends that I already have and be like, hey, do you want to try this?
Yes.
I never thought of that, so...
You can be the tip of the spear, and you can be the one to introduce others. And therefore, you're bringing a more comfortable environment around you while still participating in a greater community, or invite 1 or 2 people from that community in to form a bridge.
That's what I do with Magic sometimes. Like, I'll just be like, hey, Ash, she's my other friend. And I'm just like, let's go play Magic there, you know, because we do like talking to people. And, you know, we want to be a part of that community and play it there. But I've had some pretty cringy experiences, even just playing Magic there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
Uh,
clearly this is spinning off an entire, Tales from the Game Store
no,
session
no,
of
no.
chats and podcasts.
Sorry.
And Sprocketeer, by the way, so, you're talking about long and graybeards. You started GMing in 80, and it's nice you always have had mixed groups. And you say that I've had dice older than some of you. That may very well be the case, but you know what, Sprocketeer? You are still very much welcome and a part of this community of newbies like Dolly or people who have long gray beards like Sprocketeer, because we all have something that we can offer. For more experienced people, we could use a refresher, and hearing the things that Dolly is saying can help check us to make sure that we're not falling into the kind of environment that she talks about, that she either has encountered directly in her game store, or just things that she might have a concern about being a newcomer to a group, even if it's only conceptual. Lieutenant Virus, nerds can be cringy damn near everywhere. Well, they can.
For all you DMs, like, in a game, and like, would you like be annoyed if I like kept asking those questions? Like, I would be so afraid like I did like my damage wrong or something. Like,
Oh, pardon me.
no problem.
Apparently water isn't meant to be breathed.
Please don't die.
Yep, Sprocketeer, always ask.
To know, good to know.
Jeez, come on.
Naughty, it's okay.
Asking questions, even if it sounds redundant, it can help you as a new player learn the game more quickly. If let's say that you're playing Dilly Dilly, and you have this great axe, and you say, all right, I want to attack the goblin with the great axe. What do I do? Well, you're a new player. That's the context of your reason being here. So hopefully I'm being patient and understanding as a DM. And I say, all right, take the D12 and roll it. Well, actually, you got to hit first. So D20, blah, blah, blah. And you say, all right, so just to get this straight, I pick up my D20, I roll it, and I add my attack modifier. Yes? And then I say yes. You say, all right, roll. Does a 17 hit? Yes, it does. You hit the goblin. Now roll your damage dice. And to do that, you take your D12 and then add your strength modifier. And then you repeat back to me, all right, so I've hit D12, because that's the great axe, plus 3 for my strength, and that's going to give me the total. Yes. Awesome. And so what you've done to a GM or a DM that you might be concerned, well, I want to show them I'm paying attention. Asking questions like that demonstrates to the person teaching you that you are paying attention and that you're willing to go through it step by step. And so you ask the question, you go through the motions, and it's helping you remember because you're repeating the question back. They're getting that good feeling like, I'm being a teacher, I'm being a good mentor. And then after a while, because you've repeated it, it becomes so fluid that every time you go and smack a gobbo with a great axe, you are like, heck, you're rolling the D20 and the 12 together. So you know that if I hit, then I already have my D12 rolled and I just add 3.
Is that? Because I think that will truly help me.
Alzi says, any DM who gets annoyed with questions probably shouldn't be DMing. I do agree. That being said, there's a type of person that sits at tables, and they are known as a that guy. It's kind of a collective notion for what a that guy is. Even if you're not familiar with that, Dolly, you might be able to imagine what a that guy is or does.
He just watches, or he or she, for that matter, watches, and they're just like, Yeah, you're doing this wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, so that guy might be a gatekeeper, might be
Okay.
someone who's critical. Think about it like this. Ah, I use this in the store actually. We were joking around about making one of those old like late 80s, early 90s like teen sports competition like movies where you got to compete to save the rec center, kind of a thing. And so when we were going through this and developing the story, those the villains in those sorts of setups are usually like the son of the rich land developer, and if you don't beat him in the skiing competition, then the ski resort's going to get bulldozed by his dad or whatever. So that's that guy. And
Got you.
is someone who's like critical, who's petty, who doesn't get it, or the type of voice that I enjoy using, because I bring this up in the store too, is like, whatever, nerds, you got 2 weeks left before the big Magic tournament, and remember, if I win, my dad's totally gonna bulldoze the game store. And then, of course, for like the one girl in the store on his way out with his two like bully friends, like his Bulk and Skull and Power Rangers or whatever. So he's like, "Hey, whatever, girl. I don't know what you're doing here, but you should totally be going out with me." So something like that is that guy. And unfortunately, look, in any social circle, you could have people like that sitting in class, at work, on the bus, or whatever you do in life. Online in chat rooms or whatever, you're going to have those people. And Dolly, don't let those people define the game or the overarching culture for you. Because it's going to happen. As the book is titled, Everyone Poops. And sometimes culture produces poops like that, like those people. But you have to get through it.
Definitely won't let that stop me. This is so great. Like, you're awesome for even like doing this stream and like setting this up. I really look forward to like the other people that you're gonna interview.
Well, thank you. It's been refreshing. I'm not saying this in wrapping up. If you have to go, let me know. But I'm not saying that to wrap it up, because I've talked with people who produce content and publish it, others who also stream, people who have niches in various other role plays. For instance, for Macabre Derek, I don't know if he's on tonight. One of our admins or our mods here, he super specializes in horror games, and particularly Vampire the Masquerade or the World of Darkness more generally. He knows D&D, but that, horror, vampires, getting into that visceral, gut-wrenching emotion of realizing that you are a monster, that's his bread and butter. And,
Just real quick, RMXEX, thank you so much for the follow.
Thank you very much, yes. Alzy says, God bless you, Uncle Maddie. Aw. I'm an unkie now. I'm Unkie Maddie.
I can see it. I can see it.
Sprocketeer. Oh, Derek. Derek is around in the channel often. Sprocket. He might be working or is tonight. He might be running tonight. I forget which one. He does Insanities very well. He's on Fallout right now, bro. Player. Gotcha. Dolly, I also want you to consider as a piece of advice, when you get involved in D&D, you can run it in a lot of different ways. You may have a preconceived notion of one style or another. It's, kicking in the dungeon door, beating monsters. You could run political intrigue. You could run a whole lot of different things. Run it and enjoy it. And when it's difficult to describe, but when you've done it for a while, you are going to get together with your friends, whether they're new ones you've met along the way, or they're people that you just started with, in a group of pickup randos that are in your group. And you're going to look back years from now after playing D&D. This is my hope, that you don't run into dumpster fire after dumpster fire of D&D games. And you're going to say, you remember that one time when I was playing Velma Dilly Dilly, and you get into describing things that technically never happened with the same passion and detail as if you were front and center at an IMAX, 4K 3D blockbuster summer movie. And you're going to say, wow, that was, 5 years ago that I was playing Velma? And everyone's like, yeah, I remember Velma did this and that. And you're going to reflect back on that, and it's going to be a journey for you. My sincerest hope, anyway.
So, I hope so. There's Maddie. Do you have a character looking back on that you remember ever so fondly?
Yes. I have... Are we sticking to just D&D, I presume?
Well, I mean, it's your channel. Like, I don't know.
I'll stick with D&D, and I will go back to, on a rarer occasion where I actually got to play. There's something that I don't say this to scare you, because I think you'd have a lot of fun actually running the game. But a lot of people will call it the DM's curse, where, your friends say, oh, you're willing to run? Can you run? And you say, yeah. And then, wow, that was a lot of fun. Can you run the next game? Yeah. Can you run the third game? Yeah. Can you run the 10th game? Can I play? It's not always like that, but, if you're a DM, sometimes it's difficult to actually be on the other side of the screen. Let's see. So one of my most favorite characters that I got to play as a player character, not as a DM with an NPC, would have been Arliss Oland. Arliss, and I try and mix it up. I'll play male characters, female characters, magic users, melee users, gnomes, elves, whatever. Arliss was an adventurer. She was... calling her Indiana Jones is... I think that's kind of undermining Indiana Jones. She grew up in a farm family, and she was like the 10th kid out in the countryside. She was the youngest daughter. Like, most of them were boys. And so she grew up around boys. She grew up rough and tumble. She'd go down into the creek and, catch crawdads, and she'd help out doing farm work. She'd be the one with the freckles on her face from being in the sun and the missing tooth and kind of being the tomboy. And so she just took to a life of adventuring, and when she got old enough, she realized that the land was calling to her more than just being a farmer's daughter. And so she left her family, which was quite controversial, because they wanted her to stay behind in a more classic role. Right. And she set out, and this is where I assumed control of her as an amateur explorer. Let's see, this is in the edition of this is 4th edition. So, but yeah, I was running her like, she'd explore caves. She always carried around a pack full of supplies for camping, for climbing, things like this. So she maintained that kind of, tomboyish appearance, in that sense of adventure. And so when she encountered people in towns, there would be, people would look at her like, oh, it's Arliss, and, how are things going? And they would interact with her as a farmer's daughter, or as, a lady who's taking care of herself. She had a physique. But that sort of stuff, that never really interested her in that regard. She just loved life, and she wanted to explore and be who she was. And it was meaning. Oh, go ahead.
Is that a concept dear to your heart?
It was, because it challenged me as a guy trying to put myself into a mindset of a world where you are born into this farming family. You have, different societal roles, or, as one of the few daughters on the farm, there's, you might be taught how to repair all the, how to do the needlework and all this, these other classical things. And so I had to find a way to address that as part of the challenge and put myself in that situation, because as a guy not growing up on a farm, you know, I have to imagine, well, what sort of things do you do? What's the lifestyle like? And then how do you square that in a society that would see you in a certain way and have these expectations? And
Yeah.
so I played through it, and interestingly enough, we got to a point in time where we were going through like a magical sort of metamorphosis. We could become what we'd like. If we were a fighter and we wanted to be a wizard, if we were, you know, if we wanted to rearrange our strength score and have it become a charisma score, things like that, we would have the ability to do so. And I sat down and I thought and I said, you know, Arliss likes who she is. She's kind of an oddball. She is living the life that she wants to live, but if she got to change anything, what would it be? And now, mind you, this is years ago, before our different conversations on such things here in 2018 over social media. But she said, you know what? The only thing I really want to change, can I come back out of this as a guy instead? Because that would really just be a lot more convenient for what I want to do in life. And everyone at the table, and I'm not doing this for brownie points. I just sat down and this fit Arliss's concept. She thought about it. Guys have a lot more conveniences than women are generally thought to have. And she didn't want to change her mental stat to a physical stat. She didn't want to become a wizard instead of like a rogue sort of explorer. She just wanted more practicality in her life. And so when she kind of came out of that plot scenario that we could swap things around, that was really the only thing on her character sheet that I changed. And so she came out as Arliss Olan as she went in. It's just that, you know, biologically she had an outie instead of an innie, but she continued living on and exploring and doing everything that she wanted to do. So
That's awesome. Jeez,
well,
I want to live up to that.
and I didn't even, at the time, I didn't think about it, and it's, you know, it's not like a social brownie point or anything, but it just, when you get into that character, you know, Dolly, and you're gonna get a character that you love, you are in the zone with your character, him or her. And I really hope that when you get this character, Dolly, that it will be a vehicle that will take you on an amazing journey. Even if it ends in that character's death, and honestly, it could bring tears to your eyes if that happens. It it may sound silly. You're like, well, this is a little piece of plastic that's on some gridded vinyl on a table. Why am I weeping? My character just died. And but you know what? That means it had an impact. Sprocketeer says it's okay to be sad when and if your character dies. That's true.
A flyer.
Oh, Brawlplier, yep. Have a good night, sir. Be well. I got on a soapbox talking about Arliss Olan here that I was missing out on some conversation here. So sorry. Hi, Lieutenant Virus, by the way. Lieutenant Virus also broadcasts some D&D stuff. So for any of you out there and you want to watch others play some D&D, you can go visit Lieutenant Virus.
What kind of boxes you got?
Plunder Loot. I have Monster Menagerie, and I have Dragon Heist. I might be getting in more of the Tyranny of Dragons next week on Wednesday. Oh, yes, Dolly. Zebracorn brings up an interesting point. Have you heard of this term, murder hobo?
No.
Okay. Welcome to your indoctrination to Dungeons and Dragons, Dolly. Or I guess what, like Dragons and Dollies or whatever we want to call it here. there is a propensity for certain adventuring types to travel the lands and just kind of like a video game, destroy anything in their path, take anything that's not nailed down, and just sort of kill their way through situations instead of using their words or other things that aren't killing people. And because you get a group of adventurers that don't really have a home, that go around and destroy things, they are often called murder hobos because they just travel around and kill things. And that can be a style of play. If everyone at the table's on board with just, looting and killing, you can do that. But, Dolly, if you're playing this character that's really significant to you, and you love the role play, or you're doing some sort of like intrigue in noble courts. Oh, hey, Plunderloot, thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much.
And you're knee deep in the middle of political intrigue, and you have the noble wrapped around your little finger, and everything's coming to fruition, and then new guy or new girl sits down at the table, and says, "I'm bored. Let's I'm gonna kill this noble you're talking to."
Oh, no.
That's a murder hobo. And that can happen. So a measure of patience at the playing table is also important, because I have seen, Dolly, I have seen friendships become endangered over D&D.
Oh man! In the one session that I was able to play, we weren't allowed to have evil characters or do anything bad. So
yes.
Kind of sucked, but oh well.
Well, yeah, your DM might say this isn't going to be in what people call an evil campaign, where you're not playing the bad guys, or even if you're not playing bad guys, just because you want dinner that night doesn't mean you can go and steal someone's goat and, spit and barbecue it out in the middle of the field.
Neutral evil. Just saying.
Well, something to look at too, Dolly, and this is another good piece of advice for you as a new D&D player. Oftentimes, we see words like good or evil, and they invoke an idea. But I would challenge you to say that evil as an alignment isn't necessarily a mechanic or a thing. If your character is neutral evil, she or he can be functional in society. You don't have to kick puppies in the street and burn down every orphanage you pass by and go, "Yes, I'm evil today."
Fair enough. They could be like a sociopath or something.
Yeah, you can keep it inside. It's the way you express yourself. Or look at it this way. Evil is more selfish. Good is more selfless. Chaotic people tend to be more impulsive. Lawful people tend to be more orderly or regimented. And so if you say, well, I'm a lawful good person, well, number one, lawful good doesn't mean lawful nice. But also, you may follow the laws of the land, and your land says, you know what, if a thief steals, you can cut off their hand. Well, you go to the next kingdom over, and that's barbaric. You're an evil savage. And so if you look at alignment as how your character expresses him or herself, and say, well, I'm not lawful good, I'm selfless, I am more selfless than selfish, and I live a more regimented lifestyle or a more orderly lifestyle than I am impulsive. Or on the opposite spectrum, chaotic evil.
Of the magic guilds.
Say that again?
You're making me think of the magic guilds on Ravnica.
Ah, yes. That is a good example, and I'll tell you what, too, if you haven't heard of that, Dolly, there is a Ravnica campaign setting coming out in November.
Whoa, really? That sounds so cool.
And we actually did a kind of a preview of some of the races. They put out a free document so you could play as a Loxodon, a Simic hybrid, a Vidalcan, or a Viashino as a D&D character. And it's fun. You can get into it.
Ready?
Let me take a break real quick to show Plunder Loot what he's opened. And then we'll get back to the conversation here. All right, so Plunder Loot, we are going to start with this Monster Menagerie. You have opened up this really nice-looking Dryad. And on camera, she has active camo because she's green. But you know what? Dryads, kind of as you play against them, they kind of have this going on too. So here's a Dryad you could choose. If you don't want that, you could instead choose this Medusa figure.
Ooh.
Yeah, go for a nice Medusa. You got to watch out, though, because they try and trap you. They might go around in revealing attire, and then they look at you and say, hey, buddy, eyes up here. And that's when you fall into the trap. Next up, Plunder Loot, we have a phase spider. This is a large piece of phase spider. And lastly, Mr. Plunder Loot, if you didn't want the Dryad, the Medusa, or the phase spider, I could possibly interest you in Strad von Zarovich himself.
Oh no.
I am Strad. I am the land.
Make more voices. Oh my goodness.
Plunder Loot says Strad is mine. Alright, Plunder Loot. Strad von Zarovich bows to no man, but he will go into your box willingly.
What kind of box?
Well, so something that I do here, Dolly, as a fundraiser for the channel, what I do is for $10, I will pop open a box of minis that normally cost like 15 to 18 depending on the set. And then the sponsor of the box will keep one of the figures of their choice out of the box. And then I will send it to them as a way to help develop their miniature collection for tabletop gaming. And some of them have me hang on to their minis and put it into a storage box so that they can look at the held onto minis of other people in the community, and they might either wait until they accumulate enough minis to ship out when they're happy, or they can trade the miniatures between themselves before it gets shipped out so that everyone gets what they're looking for and everyone wins.
Maddie.
What's that? I'm sorry, I missed that.
So Maddie, sorry if my mic's cutting out. I hope not.
Oh, it's gone in and out a little bit, but I've generally been able to. Follow along.
Chat, by the way, I hentai voice acts. It's fun. Woot.
Yes, in fact, Dolly, if you want to give a shout out to what you do as a professional on the side, Dolly, you can post some links in the chat. I mean, there is mature content as a warning, but if you're interested, or if you need some voice work as well, I'm sure Dolly would be willing to talk to you and work something out.
Let me bring almost all your fantasies to life.
Including our D&D ones, Dolly?
Yes. I forget the guy's name earlier, but his meow. Yeah. Okay, there. So that's for him.
There we go. If any of you out there are playing at Tabaxi, which is a cat person, Dolly. If you're playing at Tabaxi, there you go. There's a Nyanya. Oh yeah, that was one crit. He was playing a Tabaxi barbarian that died. So, Sprocketeer, the original Ravenloft module. It has gone on, and Strad von Zarovich has been one of the most influential or recognizable D&D villains of all time, and this hobby is now quite venerable.
Favorite campaign?
Say it again.
Campaign to play or run rather.
Yes. Yes, it has been made into... Well, Ravenloft has been made into an entire setting. So if you like running in... Well, in Magic terms, it would be like running in Innistrad. Which...
Oh, I love Innistrad.
Which...
Nice.
Innistrad, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Wizards owns Magic and D&D. So, King apparently is offering a business proposal to you here, Dolly. Can you be a Zeppelin, customized to store and launch aircraft?
As long as it's, if you're okay with that Zeppelin being girly, then yeah.
Well, so there we go. So maybe
The new contact collection.
I would like to do something, Elsie, as a part of the workshops that we're doing, not just the character creation or going over rules and creating monsters, but to talk about things like voice acting at the table or presenting yourself as a player or a DM in different ways. You know, how you can create one effect or another. Especially, and this is something I'm sure you're sensitive to, Dolly, especially without blowing your voice out with something that's too like rough or gravelly or too boisterous, that you end up hurting yourself.
I really need to work on it. Like, I cannot do like gravelly voices. Like, it just sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it takes like 10 years in a Swedish death metal band to really, to get that scar tissue on your vocal cords.
Metal Gear. And that just hurt. Like, I just...
Oh, for a David Hayter kind of...
Oh my god.
And, though...
I'm more of a... Oh, go ahead.
That's part of the fun, too. If you create this character, even if it's your normal voice, but you talk with an accent, let's say that you do play Curse of Strahd, and you choose to swap your V's and your W's to make it sound a little bit, even if it's a little hokey, like a little bit more Eastern European. So I am from the village. I am of the village out to the vest. And so you just remember to swap those. It can help you create a more identifiable character.
That defaults are either like, "Hi, I'm ElectroDolly," or "Hi, I'm ElectroDolly." Like, I can't do anything else. I guess practice, but...
Well, with a higher pitched voice like what you have, not that you couldn't run a character like Velma Dilly Dilly like that, because I think we actually, when we were talking about her, we accommodated. Maybe she doesn't rage in the middle of combat, and so you actually can run her kind of like Bernadette from Big Bang Theory. She's a short stack, but she has a temper, and she can, when she needs to, she can make the squeaky noises to summon dogs from 2 blocks away. Even if it's your normal voice, just get a different accent or pronounce things differently, or refuse to pronounce things in a particular fashion. Switching, if you don't mind, I know this is an interview for you, but if I can give you another interesting character that's on this topic that I've played. This was a Vampire the Masquerade character that I played. And he, in life, he was Herbert Brown Jr. He was the first person in his family to go to college. He came out of a lower middle class African American family. First person, like, he went to college and he got a degree as a certified public accountant. And he really just seemed to get stuck in a middle management job at an accounting firm. And every day in his life, he would go home and he would dream big. He would want to be the action guy. And so what he'd do is, as a guilty pleasure, he would go home and watch a lot of the old, like, 70s, like the blaxploitation films. We're talking Shaft and other... in other similar, like gritty detective, kind of over the top. You get what I'm saying? And he'd watch that and he'd say, it seems kind of dumb, but wouldn't I love to be able to live like that? To be the big gun-toting, mamma jamma guy who doesn't care. I like that, you know, I'm the first one in my family to do this, and I have this job. And so he lived this fantasy. Well, you know, in Vampire the Masquerade, you don't stay a human for too long as a player character. And he ended up getting turned into a style of vampire from the Middle East that has a reputation of being sort of like a sneaky assassin. And they are called the Assamites. Assamite. They are the Assamites. And so this person found this unsuspecting accountant and turned him in this time of need, for which the rest of the campaign or the chronicle would play out. And what this did for Herbert Brown Jr., middle manager accountant, he could now live those big dreams. He could be the Huggy Bear, the aquarium platform shoe wearing, sword cane wielding, big plumage hat wearing character. And so he did. And his street name was Assamite. ASS-A-MIGHT. Assamite. Now, he was still Herbert Brown. He kept his personality, but now he got to fulfill his fantasies and live in Undeath, where he was just so soul-crushingly full of despair in life. And what I did for him, kind of like what Alzi and Lieutenant Virus are talking about, I took a notebook and I spent a good while writing out rhyming sentences, because Assamite, as he spoke, would almost entirely only speak in rhyme or some sort of jive. And so I was thinking, all right, this is World of Darkness. I need like 5 sentences in case we come into a werewolf. 5 sentences if I see a ghost or some other thing. And so I'd leave a couple blanks. But I wrote an entire couple pages of a notebook with all of these prompts ready to go, so that his speech pattern would remain relevant and it would be in a part of his character. And I'll tell you, everyone who ran in that chronicle, years now, kind of like what I was talking about, Dolly, 5 years from now, you're going to think back on your character. If I talk to my friends about Assamite, I guarantee you they're going to remember him and his eccentricities and the fact that he still had a heart of gold, because he wasn't a bad person. In fact, he did kind of are you familiar with the movie Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo? With Rob Schneider? So what Assamite did is he took women who were down on their luck and could use some extra income, and through their consent, without any vampire mind boggling, he would employ them and make sure that they were sent out to do adult jobs. And while he was their pimp, in so much that he looked the part, and he did take some money for his own living, he let each of these girls keep the vast majority of their money, and on top of that, he also encouraged them to buy insurance and taught them to be financially literate, because he was still an accountant.
I like that.
And so on the streets, he was Assamite, and he had all these different names, like Christina Castle was one of the women, but even though her name was Christina Castle, his name for her was Double D, and then you had a Latina woman, and her name was Taco Bell, Belle, and so they had all of these like kind of over the top to go with who Assamite is, as this like 70s era caricature from a blaxploitation film who's living this job on the streets. By the way, this took place in Erie, Pennsylvania. But then he would still be a decent guy when he was in his apartment, which he called the Lay Station. Yeah, and he might not have had a lot of money, and so while he drove around one of those like baby poop yellow like old Cadillacs, you know how they have the spare wheel on the back of the trunk. He didn't have a lot of money, so he did put one spinner on the spare wheel on the back of his car. So he tried. But
Yeah.
again, it was all a part of the thing. And by the way, his car was called the LSP, the Lay Station Portable. Um, so it was.
Other than a pussy wagon, I suppose.
Yeah, things happen in that car. It was no Impala from Supernatural, but it certainly did what needed doing. And so if you do that, and you know what, the concept might be silly, and also too, I mean, as we're having humor and there's context to it, we can explore things, some societal challenges, maybe some conversational taboos. We can bring up concepts that might be uncomfortable, or even concepts that outside of our gaming group just turn into a big online firestorm of controversy and accusation. But if you're running it, and you know, Dolly, if you have context for your character in your game group, and you're making this character a character, then you shouldn't have to worry about that. You know, good characters can make jokes. Jokes don't often make good characters. But if you're making a good character that does make jokes, then I think you're going to be solid. And you can confront topics like sex and religion and politics, race, different races or other backgrounds. You can confront all this at the tabletop, and do so in fun ways, in meaningful ways, or explore whatever, you know. As I tried to do with Arliss. Look, I'm a guy, I'm not a girl, and I said I tried to legitimately challenge myself. What would a girl like this live like, or be frustrated by, or want to do? And it helps you be a better person, in my opinion, Dolly.
So, off of that, would you say that D&D definitely makes you a more empathetic person?
Yes. Over time, and if you use it to get out of your comfort zone, in my opinion, it will make you a more empathetic person, a more understanding person, for yourself in your own life and lifestyles, or to understand others.
Welcome, Coffee Cat.
Oh, hey, Tracy. You play are you talking about Mordecai on our Tuesday game, Coffee Cat? If so, then Dolly, you got to understand he's going through a bit of a tough time. He just died and came back as a vampire, so he's going through some changes. He woke up. He has fangs where there were none before. It's kind of an awkward second puberty.
Vampires are like my irrational fear. Fun fact. They really are.
Oh, is it the visceral, the hunt, or the blood, or the I look like a human but I'm really just a monster?
Oh, it's just like the whole like draining, like becoming a husk and then just discarded. Like, oh, I just can't stand it.
Well, you know what? At some point in time, then, it sounds like you should play in a game either as a vampire or confront it, because just as people watch horror movies who are afraid of scary stuff, you'll get that exhilarating thrill, and you may never necessarily get over that fear, but you can enjoy it a lot more. By the way, Plunderloot, thank you for that box earlier. I'm replacing. Well, I'm not replacing, but I'm putting the other box of a brand new brick into the box here if anyone else wants to pick it up.
D&D is therapy now.
It is. I really think so. But you could also burn out on it. So, I mean, I would get into it, Dolly, but also if you do it, every day of the week, well, it's the same thing with anything else.
Well, on that note, Mr. Matty Morix, I have got to get going.
Yeah, we've talked a while.
But I had fun, though. So much fun. Like, I definitely feel way more confident than I was. Wholeheartedly.
Well then, lurk or be active in stream. I look forward to seeing you back here. And as you need help with character advice or whatnot, you can tap on any of the people here on our Discord. We have that mentor network. If you need anything, let me know. If there's a game I've tried to get something going here with you as well. If you get a group of friends, I might be able to help get you going on a game as well. So let me know, because look, we're a community. We're all here to help.
I'm gonna tell them to be like, hey, go watch this guy. Go make your own character sheet. Let's do this.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, Dolly, thank you so much for your time tonight. Everyone,
thank you.
Welcome Dolly to the community as an individual and as someone who is new and is looking forward to playing more D&D. And I look forward to hearing stories of your own tales as you find them.
Definitely keep you updated. And thank you again. And thank you, chat. You guys are freaking awesome. Woo! Okay, before I go, I hope you'll indulge me. But, chat, if you have, like, one line that I should say in my voice, you should throw it out there. Leave.
All right, there you go. You have a voice actor who's willing to indulge in a line. Chat, what should she say?
Immediately regret this.
Well, hopefully they'll keep it PG-13, but
I mean,
I mean it could sound breathy, but you know it's.
I'd make it breathy for sure.
Oh, all right. A couple suggestions are starting to pour in here.
I'm gonna do a cute one for that one.
Okay. It's king
Put your lips
cheese.
together and blow.
Oh, sorry. I laughed over that. That was my fault.
Fine. They don't need to hear it again. It's totally fine. Oh my god. Okay. And
From Casablanca.
Yeah, okay. Oh, get to the chopper. I don't know. That was bad. I tried. Okay. I'm getting all flustered.
That one. Well, at least if it's like the Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, that's the more gravelly. You know, get to the chopper. Do it now.
Oh my god. Okay. There. Now that I've embarrassed myself.
Okay. Hey, congratulations. You've blooded yourself on D&D voice acting. And now that even if you feel embarrassed, what worse can happen after this? So now you're obligated to get into the hobby. So thank you for your time tonight, Dolly. I look forward to having you in the community. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Bye.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we have a convert. One of us. One of us. Thank you very much, Dolly, for your time. And also for all of you who are in here watching and offering your opinions, your questions, your comments. I know I didn't read every single one of them on chat because we're having the conversation. And honestly, I don't know, I was probably a little bit too chatty for my own good. Still, though, Dolly, welcome aboard. I think you're going to start an awesome journey that I hope you are going to continue to take for years and years in your life, no matter where you go. You know, wherever you move, north, south, east, or west, even overseas in other countries. Because look, not everyone in chat over here is from the United States. You are going to have this as a hobby and a social medium that you can take now almost anywhere you want to go. And, you know, I'm saying this to you, Dolly, but if there's anyone else out there who's new, who's watching this live here or later on YouTube, you have a skill now. You have a social skill that you can take anywhere. Heck, you want to go to a foreign language and you want to help learn, or you want to help yourself learn how to speak a foreign language? Describing how you run, jump, attack, colors, basic words, house, village, road. D&D can help you with that too. It is Global Sprocketeer. Dolly asks, do online D&D campaigns work? They can, yes. In my opinion, everyone at a table in a heads-up setting, face-to-face, is the best. You can run successful campaigns online, though. And especially if you can incorporate webcams, because being able to see people's faces is a big part of the game, in my opinion. To see their reactions, to see their eye movement, the expressions on their face. I can smile, or, you know, if I turn my camera off, you might be able to hear me speaking happily. You might even be able to hear me if I'm speaking with a smile. But if you see me leaning back in my old creaky chair and I am clapping, I am guffawing, you, as the one who caused that reaction in me as a DM or as a fellow PC, nothing's going to beat that. And online can't simulate that as well unless you have a camera or unless you're playing in a heads-up fashion. Australian is basically a foreign language. Yes, Sprocketeer face-to-face, I prefer that as well. Ooh, you're in 3 different online campaigns, Sprocketeer. You, sir, are some kind of wizard. You may very well be. Lieutenant Virus, you agree about the faces thing? Yes, actually, Lieutenant, your game runs with everyone's faces. And look, as a secondary DM, well, I mean, if I'm primary, and not to your game, but as a second DM who has experience with this, there's external validation. Alzi is someone with social anxiety. I can vouch for online being much easier. Sprocketeer, my uncle went to Oz after World War II, and we never heard from him again. Aw. Oh, Plunder Loot and scrolling up and catching up. You said the Devil Strahd, I mean Epic. In our campaign that we're playing at the store, as people do call him the Devil Strahd, what we had them do is kind of in a Greek fashion. After they said his name, we certain people would like spit after his name, and so it became kind of a culture at our tabletop. That every time someone said the Devil Strahd, everyone at the table went patooey, and we all sort of spat on the ground together. It was a lot of fun. Also, hello Imagination Studio. Peace to your brother. Sprocketeer, RPGs help me keep my sanity during a dark depression. And you know what? I'm glad that you said that, Sprocketeer, because that can happen. And I'll tell you, especially among people who are tabletop gamers, we could make the argument for video gamers too. But speaking of this segment, there are a lot of people who enjoy those games who do have a lot of emotional or emotional mentalities or problems or illnesses or something along those lines. And, you know, getting out, being social and creative and still feeling accepted can help you bring out of that. That said, hey, it happens in a lot of game groups where someone in the group decides to take a tragic action. And, you know, especially in the wake of that, when you get back together at the table and that person's not there anymore, it can be tough. But if you're still doing it and you're still living on, and you're still continuing and you're keeping good spirits, and hopefully you turn that into a better person of yourself or a better part of yourself, then not only have you had fun playing the game, you walk away from that table as a better person. Just as Dolly said, it will help you be way more empathetic to other people, including yourself, in realizing, wow, I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel comfortable about something. And through role-playing, you can explore these different thoughts that you have. So... Alzi, my irrational fear is big things in water. The scariest thing about Cthulhu is that he's a big thing in water. Yeah, it's like, it's the dark, the depth, the unknown, the crushing, the, you know, the drowning. And also you live in Australia, so there's great white sharks everywhere. Hey, XCat, good to see you. Good news, a driver update fixed my screen problem, so I can have all your monitors again while drawing. Yes, XCat does stream on Creative, by the way, everyone, if you want to go and check out what he's doing. I'm going to have to... That's going to go on the list, too. I got to get another monitor for my setup here. How people react to accents can vary. I think as long as you're not trying to caricature... Hey, Primal, thank you very much for the follow. Run, follow me if you want to live. I guess you already have. If you're not trying to caricature a culture, cringy South Park Chinese accents, do you know Dewey, West African, and your accent doesn't define the person, it's okay. I would agree generally, Alzi. I mean, even if you're doing something as a caricature, if the context, you know, if you're not doing it like herder, we're all just, you know, using this as a very shallow veil to do one thing or another. Maybe I'm more loosey-goosey about that because I want people to explore. I want people to challenge themselves. And sometimes, too, by someone becoming a caricature themselves, they can understand how the empathy can flow towards people who are that caricature. I wish I was much more suave with my words to make Mordecai sound like he knows what he's saying. Well, you know, if you ever need to, Coffee Cat, you could do what I did with Asimite, and you could just write down some lines. You know, so you just take a piece of 8.5 by 11 and you fold it into 3. And the top part is things to say to, like, town NPCs. Things to say to authority figures. And things to say to religious people. And then you can reference that sheet to customize it to the situation, so then you are suave in that situation. Sprocketeer, my group broke up. We all met at a friend's funeral a few months ago and decided to get back together. Oh, wow, Sprocketeer. I mean, I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm glad that you got back together and it sort of prompted that again, and maybe you can live the old... I mean, I say the old days like, you know, you're some elder wizard who's been around for ages, but I mean, you know, that you could get back and do what you've been doing with your friends. Primal, can I have context for this? I just joined. Role-playing can help become more confident in yourself. Yes, RM. Stay a while and listen. Yes. Yeah, and so that's the context, Primal. We started out this session by creating a random character that we are going to use in an interesting experiment for the rest of the week. But we also talked with a new player to D&D, to someone who wants to play and step up. And she was telling us her concerns, asking questions, and we were helping her show that D&D isn't just the stereotypes that you might hear about. XCat says, I have a fear of open water because of the pool sharks from Ratchet and Clank. I have not played that, so I'll just have to take your word for it, XCat. I mean, that those about the monsters and how fearful they are. Caddock Blue, it just depends on who you play with. Something is always offensive to someone, and I say that as a very cautious person. It can be, and so that's why running with your friends, if you're keeping a context among your friends, have fun, play your character, live, laugh, and learn, and I mean, like with anything else, just, you know, pardon my French Canadian, but don't be an A-E-H, don't be an a-hole. LZB, I think there's a difference between caricaturing a personality and a culture. Your Arnold voice parodies Arnold. It's not a jab at Austrians. I started a drawing this afternoon as a centaur-ish, but the humany part is a deer. Oh, okay. Dark Wolf at Tri-C, no matter how suave you make Mordecai, Noralai will still think he's a perv. Yeah. You all need it, you think, says Bracketeer? Hey, Volvo, good to see you. Mordecai is a anime. Coffee Cat, I am an awkward fool, and Mordecai is supposed to be kind of suave, but he's developing into a bit of a snarky dude. Or he's to the point I don't know yet. And hey, growing your character outside of a snapshot of your level 1 starting attributes can happen. You kind of have an effect on your character if you're trying to save the world, throw a ring into Mount Doom. You might just grow. You can start off, speaking of things that might be, you're like, oh, we've got to be cautious about this. You could start a campaign and your character could be misanthropic. Like, oh, girls, who needs them? They're nothing but trouble. Females are just a bunch of hormones and emotion, and who needs that? And you start that as your character. And by the end of the campaign, I mean, you yourself may not be misogynistic. Your character may. And yet, over the course of the campaign, your character might just be willing to begrudge, you know what? Women might not be so bad after all. Even if that's as far as your character gets in kind of getting off of that pillar. So, things like alignment can change over time. How you joke and how you act. Just as Coffee Cat talked about, he might have started off as a suave as a suave bard, and especially, look, you've been through stuff now as Mordecai. You've died even, let alone gotten caught up in something. Mordecai went out for a stroll in a field full of flowers, and he is now drug into several ancient forces awakening around him, and that has led to his death and now his undeath. He's probably going to change a little bit. Before you start your first game, talk with your players about what they expect from the game. See if there's anything they may be uncomfortable. Yeah, especially if people you've not played with before. Yes. Because someone might take offense if you play a character of some background or orientation or something or another. Because, look, we live in a 2018 society as players, but we are playing, 500, the year is 518 back in Get Ye Flask days. And so how do you reconcile? Especially if, you want to talk about societal slavery. You want to talk about, religious corruption, or the overt use of power outside of a charity and a cultural guiding light. Look, as a DM, look at it this way too. As a DM, you play. Well, I imagine you're going to play a villain in a campaign. You have to get into the mindset of someone who is a villain, a murderous villain possibly, a genocidal dictator. Now, you, as average person out there, you might, you get up, you enjoy some coffee and toast, you go to work, on Friday you go out and have, you crack open a cold one with the boys. But on Saturday night, you are fully willing to collapse a dwarven society on itself underneath a mountain if the PCs don't ask what you do. Even though everyone at work says, oh, you're a really good person. Like Sokka from Avatar. And Salzi agrees. You got to get at least one Baka in during the campaign, says XCat. So apparently Baka is going to be an infernal word for something, right? Sprocketeer, my character in our Wednesday game is a weak, nervous 15-year-old kid. After a few weeks, he is becoming a little more confident and braver. Yeah, even if it's through incrementalism. I like that, Sprocketeer. By the end, you're married to a drow. Well, that could happen. That's oddly specific, Chaotic Blue. But hey, things happen, right? Well, he definitely has some stuff to work through. My female Star Trek officer got pregnant. Guess who had to roleplay giving birth? Hey, you want to talk about putting yourself in another person's uniform or a biological role? You bring up a good point, Sprocketeer. Alzy asked if Tracy are just role-playing as Justin Bieber. Mordecai definitely has thoughts about some people in the world already. 2 characters in my Wednesday game got married. It was great. And the donkey gave birth at that. Smash them dwarves. Hey, Silly Willy Gaming. Yeah, hey, that happened in my first campaign. The big bad evil guy was willing to collapse a cavern on dwarves if the PCs didn't hand over the MacGuffin. And you know what? This guy got the MacGuffin back from the PCs. If the PCs don't ask, is you... Alzy, whoa, I support this channel, but I will not tolerate anti-dwarf sentiment. Now, what do you mean by that, what do you mean by that, Silly? Like, which character are you gonna play? You lean towards elf, so I have a biased opinion. My main character is bookish and awkward and super cautious and calculated. Alzy says, I think you mean dwarf or wrong choice. Hey, especially in 4th edition, dwarves were putting in work. There's 10 animals in the party. Oh yeah, it's a traveling zoo. The Belek Nella, you've never played D&D. Well, you've come to the right channel for that. We are here to help you, to answer questions, and maybe we just might convince you that it's a fun game worth playing with a bunch of friends. You said if the PCs don't ask what you do, you said it backwards? Oh, I might have switched something up. Sprocketeer also loves elves. 2 owlbears, 2 donkeys, a dog, a wolf, and a horse, 2 crows, and the ranger's panther. Volvo, I give props to all DMs. You never truly understand how much work the DM puts in until you become one. You think that the elves have nice ears, but what are the benefits in 5th edition? Well, so aside from having pointy ears, you have an affinity to, well, so you could do several things before I go over to what Coffee Cat said. By playing an elf, it's a different type of mentality, because you get to live maybe... Oh, thank you very much for that follow, Nella. You live 700 years. You live a great long while. What does that do to your outlook as a person? You know, what does that do? You have human friends. What's 700 years to human friends? You're going to see loss. You're going to see the world change beyond you. Also, because of your Fey origin, or your ancestry, I should say, it makes you... Yeah, it makes you more natural, but also has you stand out. Almost as a native alien among the people of the world in which you live. Due to your features, due to your odd habits, your long life, due to the fact that you can get away without really ever needing to sleep if you just meditate. So think about that as a character. What would that have you do? What is your outlook on life? If you know that you are going to outlive not only your human friends, you're going to outlive a couple generations of dwarven friends, of halflings and gnomes. You remain, yet the world continues on without you. I mean, with you, but really without you. There's mechanical benefits too, but I wanted to sell you on the concept. Tip for new DMs, keep a notebook handy. Write down any ideas that pop in your head. Steal ideas. Yep. Good. There's nothing new under the sun. If you can take something and adapt it to your campaign, have fun with it. You then make it your own, right? Take inspiration, make it your own, and insert it into something else. And make memories with your friends. I like my tieflings ugly and unloved. 5th edition has been a bit too kind to them, in your opinion. You like them a bit more human-looking, but that's just me. Those PCs better ask me what I do, or so help them. Hey, Civil Hermit, good to see you. Welcome back, Civil. Coffee Cat, I play a tiefling who doesn't much like that his people are stereotyped constantly. Yes, in fact, that does come up in our Tuesday game. I think it's a very interesting dynamic that you and Jade are exploring as Mordecai and Jade. Which is kind of why I have a love for the non-human races. You love the description of elves. This is awesome. Well, I'm glad that I'm able to get the concept. Because, look, if I were to just tell you a bunch of stat lines, silly, that's not answering your question. That doesn't help you. Because, just because they get +2 dexterity, is that why you want to be an elf? Are you an elf for the mechanics, which maybe that's how some people want to play? Or are you an elf because you want to challenge yourself to this foreign concept? What's it like to live for 700 years when everything else dies around you? I think a sniveling kobold would be fun. I agree, Elsie. My next full arc is going to have a murder trial and a ghost issue. I like how it'll have a ghost issue. You know, like that's just a thing on the side. You know, some people have mice that come in, you know, during the winter. Other people have ghost issues. Where should I start in attempting to play D&D? Zebracorn, yes, D&D Beyond has some good items created by community members. It's a good portal for that. So, Belloc Nella, if you have a friendly local game store, that would be the place to start. You know, if you have a local comic store, a game store, you know, like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, you can even try looking at your local library. Outside of that, if you go to some communities online, for instance, Roll20, ROLL20, Roll20 is a virtual tabletop that would allow you to play with other people over the internet. And there are forums there that you can use to find games. Also, I mean, as a member of this community, if you do join our Discord, we have a looking for group section that you can sort of copy the template, fill it out to your, you know, to your schedule, and you could post it, and you all might be able to find a game with each other that you could run. We do keep a couple roleplay rooms open on our Discord just for that. Haven't actually been a non-human in a long time because I tend to play straight guy characters to contrast the weirdness of the rest of the party. And so it's almost like the DM's curse. Like, alright, I'll play the token human because someone's got to be, you know, not the weirdo with the tail or the horns or the 3 eyes or the whatever. And the, you know, someone's got to stand out by being normal. That's fair. I'm a fan of variant races that come up in the newest official content. If you have a local college or a community college, excellent recommendation, Sprocketeer. Also Google for RPG clubs. There's also it's a website called Meetup, MEETUP, meetup.com. And that's where people can post community events and things like that. And there's a lot of people who will put, Magic the Gathering every Friday night, or D&D, or whatever. You can check there, too. Chaotic asks, do you have the Player's Handbook? If not, I suggest picking up the free 5th edition SRD online. It has elves in it, among other races from the Player's Handbook. It's free from Wizards of the Coast. Yes, exactly, Chaotic. In fact... There you go. Civil, I found out about a public monthly D&D club at my local library not too long ago. Yep, exactly. Bellic, I hope that you find something here. Yep, ask your friends too. Look, while D&D is more popular than ever, a lot of people are still kind of closeted D&D players. If you bring it up at the water cooler at work and say, do you know anyone who plays D&D? I've been thinking about it lately. You might be surprised. You might be surprised that someone else at the water cooler at your work or wherever it is that you're at might kind of look at you and be like, oh, you want to play D&D? Because they've been playing this whole time and have been looking for someone. Bring it up casually. It's not a sub-pop culture thing anymore. It's more pop culture or main culture. In my biased opinion. All right, take care, Coffee Cat. Have a great night. Any good huge databases of pre-written campaigns? Yep, DM's Guild has a lot of that. Also, if I recall correctly, the first 5th edition campaign, The Lost Mine of Fandelver, you can purchase a physical copy for $25. It has all the startup rules you need, an adventure, some dice, and maps. I think you can even get that adventure for free online. You might be able to find that. And running a mod is often a good way to learn how to play D&D. I got a job because the interviewer played D&D too. Ah, Sprocketeer. You're spoiling me here. Judi Dench plays D&D. If that doesn't make it cool, I don't know what will, says Alzy. And have a great night, Coffee Cat. Alright, I gotta get up and take about another 10-minute break, everyone. So, continue the momentum. Continue asking questions and helping each other. But I'll come back and we'll see, right? So, hang out just a little bit longer.